If you want more details, her bio is in your packet, so read those over. And I am going to try the clicker. These all people know that I was the clicker person a couple hours ago, and I did mostly okay, right? So anyway, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Maria Mihalcea.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about an integrative approach to health and wellness, and how to live long and live well, just like the theme of this beautiful day is. So why would we consider integrative health? Basically, the idea for me as a former geriatrician and internist to just maintain people in their state of health was just not enough, but that there are actual possibilities to reverse age, to reverse disease, and bring people back to optimal health. And that there is a way to use less pharmaceutical drugs, because in my career I've seen many people with what's called polypharmacy. They've been on so many drugs that it was just overwhelming them and just too much. So the idea that we could rejuvenate and heal the cells in the body through nutritional optimization, and that we are able to down-regulate inflammation in the body, which is actually the way we age. We age because of inflammation. And if we are able to control that, we have the possibility to help this aging process, slow it down, and potentially reverse it. So that's the ultimate goal, actually. So the idea that our health is dependent on our lifestyle choices is absolutely a known fact. If you look at the incidence of cancer that is rising in the United States, you see that there's millions and millions of people who are going to be projected by 2030 to develop cancer, and it is known that almost 40% of the cancer development risk is due to lifestyle choices. Diabetes, as you know, is very much linked to lifestyle, in particular type 2, and we're going to have a tremendous boom of that, also due to the obesity epidemic. If you look at dementia, and particularly Alzheimer's, it is now called type 3 diabetes because diabetics are at such an increased risk of Alzheimer's. So, and then we're talking about heart disease as well. Over 500,000 people die in the United States every year of heart disease. So these are potentially modifiable, preventable, meaning we don't have to go there and live a life of debilitating illness. The facts are this. In the United States, 70% of Americans are on one prescription drugs, 50% on at least two. 88% of people over the age of 64 take at least one prescription drug. Now, the polypharmacy that I was talking about, 20% of United States patients are on 4, 5 or more prescription drugs. And as you know, those interact together and they cause risk. But here's really the shocking thing is that these drugs kill people. 290 people are killed by FDA-approved prescription drugs every day. The quality of care in the United States should be better. If you think about that, we're the country that spends the most per person on our health care. It's $10,000 annually per person on average. But that we have worse mortality rates, we have higher rate of lab errors and medical errors than other countries in the in the world. Hospital admissions for these preventable diseases are higher, and the disease burden is higher. So why is it that even though we spend more money than every other country in the world, we are not healthier. There is something in our approach that is insufficient. There's also substantial mortality related to our healthcare system. The Johns Hopkins University published a study in 2018 that America's healthcare system is responsible for being the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. So we are looking at deaths due to unnecessary surgery, 12,000, 7,000 deaths due to medication errors, deaths due to other errors, 80,000 deaths due to infections. That's a major emerging problem when you go into the hospital. The negative effects of drugs we talked about, medical errors, up to 440,000 people. And then, interestingly, the vaccine compensation for the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program is $3.7 billion. So what could medicine of the future look like? And this was something that really inspired me to make a change in my life and say, you know, I went to medical school to become a healer. I want to be able to reverse people's suffering, not just maintain it. So the integrative functional medicine approach focuses on prevention, on wellness, on lifestyle, and ultimately on anti-aging, as well as reversal of aging. These treatments include things like vitamins and supplements. We do nutritional therapy. We remove toxins from the body so that the cells can rejuvenate and function better. We replace bioidentical hormones because hormone levels go down with aging, and that's an important mechanism in the body through which we age. We use peptides, and peptides are an absolutely outrageously wonderful new field of medicine. I will speak more later about it. The things that we can do with peptides is kind of like go to a Star Trek movie, and I'm all into that. Lifestyle changes and other regenerative therapies. You know, you've heard of stem cell therapies, but there's more. There's exosomes, there is all kinds of amazing things that can rejuvenate people. And we do use innovative new screening technology because it's not enough for me as a doctor to know that someone has a heart problem by the time they get chest pain, because by that time the artery is blocked 95%. I want to know when they have a 30% blockage or a 40% blockage because I know how to reverse it. And so these innovative treatment modalities are able to give me that information. The other thing that's really important is brain health. We should perform brain testing just like we perform blood pressure tests because our brain is absolutely important. And we have that technology, it's called WAVI. I'm going to tell you more about it, it's amazing. And we can detect cognitive dysfunction early and do something about it. So the medicine of the future, which is now, are multifactorial modalities to really address the underlying disease process and support the cell to repair itself so that we can reverse and prevent disease. We want to identify issues long before people have developed symptoms. I start my age reversal program with people who are in their 40s because you want to prevent and reverse your age so that you're not getting some of these devastating diseases. But we can do it at any time. So what do we know about the aging process? We really have to understand how it works. I talked to you that one of the biggest things that's causing aging is inflammation. This causes the little capping structures on the DNA called telomeres to shorten. And the shorter the telomeres, the sicker the person, or the more rapid we age. But that's a dynamic process, it's reversible. Oxidative stress is a process in the body it sort of means that the body isn't able to handle the toxins in the cell, and so it causes problems. Mitochondria are the powerhouse in the cell, and when the powerhouse doesn't work, it's like your electrical station doesn't work, and you don't have the electricity to actually, function in your house, in your cell. Inefficient nutrient sensing, that's actually diabetes. So insulin resistance, which is a major cause of inflammation, means that the cell doesn't know that there is sugar out there that's supposed to be transported inside of the cell. Environmental toxins are a huge problem and hardly ever addressed in the regular medical practice. And it's very important in the aging process because it in and itself causes disease. And I'll talk a little bit more in depth later about it. And then the hormonal decline that I briefly mentioned. So this was an absolute turnaround in the history of medicine. There was a study that was recently published, and it was actually featured on Fox News, which biologists and doctors were able to show that aging is reversible. They used a growth hormone and 2 diabetes medications, and they showed that the DNA age of the people was reversed by 2.5 years. So that's the first indication, really, that it is absolutely possible to take aging people and reverse their age biologically. So the idea is that the thymus gland, we have a thymus gland that is functioning in childhood, and when we become teenagers and the sexual hormones start rising, that thymus gland involutes. It becomes like a pea size and it stops working. But this thymus gland is like the fountain of youth, and what they were working on is to help the thymus gland reawaken. So this is an amazing next step in our ability to address aging and successfully reverse it. MIT Technology Review from August 2019, they had an entire issue on reversing aging. And the editor's letter quoted, "Old age is over if you want it." So one of the things that was just announced is the first human trial on what's called an mTOR inhibitor to actually prolong human lifespan, and to do so in a healthy way. mTOR is a gene that we all have, and if this gene gets upregulated, we age faster. Inflammation happens, and we develop diseases of aging, all of them. From Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, you name it, arthritis. It's all regulated through the same genetic mechanisms. It has been shown that this gene can be affected by a substance called rapamycin. This rapamycin is actually a pharmaceutical drug. It's used in transplant patients. But if you give it once every couple weeks, it affects this mTOR gene. In all mammals and all animal models, it's been shown to reverse age, it's been shown to prevent disease. It actually, in mice, has reversed arteriosclerosis and other illnesses. So this drug is now being studied in a trial. And the other featured article in the MIT review was, it's the anti-aging drug that's just around the corner. Integrative and functional doctors are already using this approach, including myself. We have enough data to be able to help people to reverse their age. These are the pathways, and it's not for you to, scare you, but it is known. All of the pathways and genes that control our longevity are known, and we know how to manipulate them with natural substances. Your SERT gene, for example, which regulates inflammation in the body, is regulated by resveratrol. That's probably why the French don't get heart attacks, because they drink so much wine. So again, mTOR in these animal studies really has been shown to do amazing things. So as an anti-aging approach, the idea is that we look at a cell, and that cell is like your house. If I want to rebuild your house, I have to give you all of the things that you need to do so effectively. You need the windows, you need the doors, you need the locks, you need the plumbing. Those are your nutrients, and you need them all at once. So the idea of nutritional optimization is to give the body all of its nutrients in the appropriate dosages. The hormones are like the cell phone communication between the cells. If you don't have, for example, DHEA or other hormones in your body, it's as if you're talking on your cell phone, but you have 1 bar instead of 5 bars. And what's happening, what you're listening to is kind of crackly and you can't quite hear it. So that's why we also look at that. Thyroid hormone optimization is extremely important. Again, downregulate inflammation, address the heavy metal burden in the body, because that's actually been shown to cause high blood pressure and all of these things like cardiovascular disease. Then the peptides, we use IV nutritional therapy. Why intravenous? Because if you have gut problems, most of the people that are alive are able to absorb only about 20% of the nutrients that you take in pill form. If you're super healthy, the maximum you can absorb is 40%. But basically anything that you take orally, you have to take in really high doses so it gets delivered in appropriate amounts into your cells. But if I give it IV, I can boost up your B vitamins, your C vitamins, and it gets 100% absorbed. So this is like, in order to rebuild your house, I'm delivering everything you need right there. Hyperbaric oxygen is also a wonderful treatment. It's been shown in a study. They took nursing home patients with dementia, and they gave them hyperbaric treatment a couple times a week for 2 months, and they were able to go back to independent living, because oxygen depletion also has been associated with low functioning in the cells. So there's a lot of different ways. Light therapy, ultraviolet blue light has been shown to be extraordinarily helpful. Infrared is very helpful. And we can affect these longevity genes. So the idea is this multi-pronged approach of healing someone. Obviously, we're also addressing their mind, their emotional state. People in chronic stress or who are depressed and anxious, they are sicker and they do worse. We know that from studies. So we have to address mind, body, spirit, everything. In the United States, we have substantial nutritional deficiencies. We are well fed but undernourished. And it has been shown, because we have such a high consumption of processed foods, and we have declining nutrients in our soil, so even if people farm organic, the nutrients that are in the food is deficient. Chronic diseases, so the sicker someone is, the more nutrients they need to heal themselves and to repair. So the idea that, the same dose I would give an 18-year-old and an 80-year-old person who's really sick, that doesn't make sense. They have different nutritional needs to be addressed. And in a study recently of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, it indicated that even our children as well as the adults, have high rates of deficiencies of the vitamins A, B6, B12, C, D, E, and folate and iron. So we screen people routinely in my office, and one of the big things that I screen for is vitamin C deficiency. And just to let you know that about 85% of people who walk in the door at the initial visit have low levels of vitamin C. 50% of them are scurvy level. Do you all still remember what scurvy is? You know, the sailors whose teeth fell out? And so, and this is not uncommon, actually, because the daily recommended dose by the FDA of 90 milligrams is extremely low, and most people forget to take it. Did you know that animals have a gene that allows them to produce their own vitamin C? A goat makes 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and you think a human can get by with 90? So the other thing, the other nutritional aspect that we look for is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is something in the brain that's important for the brain, but also for the blood vessels. And if we don't have it, we really accelerate with arteriosclerosis. So if we don't have blood supply that's working, then we have problems. So there's a very easy saliva test for nitric oxide deficiency, which, by the way, also causes insulin resistance. And a lot of people, more than 80%, are deficient in it. After the age of 40, our production goes down. Isn't that something that you would want to know, because you want to prevent having arteriosclerosis when you're getting older, and that you can supplement that because nitric oxide is in red beets? That would be easy, right, to fix. Vitamin D deficiency is a big problem. We don't have enough vitamin D in our milk products, and people mistakenly think that going into the sunlight that you can make vitamin D. It has been shown in studies that the older we get, we don't have the enzyme to produce the vitamin D. So most people, even who are in Arizona, you can check their blood levels and they're deficient. So just a couple of benefits of vitamin C, since it's so easy. It's a strong antioxidant. It may lower blood pressure. That's been looked at in studies. It prevents and actually treats and reverses arteriosclerosis. A study, an analysis of 9 different studies with almost 300,000 participants found that after 10 years, people who only took 700 milligrams, which is a pretty low dose actually, had a 25% lower risk of heart disease. Linus Pauling, who won 2 Nobel Prizes, he really talked about that in order to prevent arteriosclerosis, which he called vascular scurvy, that basically the reason why we develop arteriosclerosis is if we don't have vitamin C, it oxidizes the bad cholesterol and we start the process. And then we can prevent this from happening. So he, Linus Pauling, talked about doses between 5,000 and 8,000 milligrams just to maintain health. So that's a completely different approach.
That's a lower the counter?
Yes. Or liposomal. Some people get stomach problems. Liposomal absorption is much better than what I talked about earlier, the 20 to 40% that's been shown, and then you can take less. So, but again, it really depends on the individual and what are their needs and how sick are they. So further benefits of the vitamin C, it really enhances your immune function because it helps your white blood cells fight invaders like bacteria. It protects your thinking and your memory. And we already discussed the arteriosclerosis part. So in regards to environmental health, I do want to talk about the impact of heavy metal burden on the body. There's a tremendous body of research about this. That basically, if we are having a lot of heavy metals in our system, like lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, which are in the air in our environment, and we ingest them, that every part of our organs are affected, that we develop autoimmune diseases, increase in viral infections and allergies. Chronic fatigue can be from heavy metal burden. Things like dementia, Parkinson's, memory decline have been absolutely linked to heavy metal burden, particularly lead. In the endocrine system, these heavy metals are endocrine disruptors, so you can have on your blood test a normal hormone level, but you're still tired, you're constipated, you're overweight, because your thyroid isn't functioning properly because these heavy metals are inhibiting it from working properly. In the cardiovascular area, lead has been shown to cause high blood pressure. It's been shown to cause arteriosclerosis, strokes. There's an association with cancer. And those are, again, toxins to the mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of the cell. So where do we find lead? Well, so before 1979, lead was in gasoline, and so there were tons and tons of lead that went into the atmosphere, and we inhaled it. And basically what happened with the lead is that when we inhaled it, we stored it in our bones. The half-life of lead is 30 years. It is in paints, it is in food, in drinking water. Mercury is in our fish, like tuna, sea bass, halibut, and marlin. There's contamination in food, in dental care. The amalgams are off-gassing mercury gas. Preventative medical practices. Thimerosal is still in multi-vial vaccine, which contains mercury, has been associated with Alzheimer's dementia. Occupational operations. Arsenic is in our rice. Rice has extremely high dosages of arsenic. Insecticides, herbicides, ceramics, cadmium in cigarettes. If you smoke one cigarette, you are consuming 200 milligrams of vitamin C per cigarette just to endeavor to neutralize toxins. We have it in leafy vegetables, potatoes, as well as the drinking water. And then aluminum is in our personal care products, your deodorants. You're absorbing aluminum from there, and cooking ware. So the Enhanis study showed blood, lead, and cardiovascular mortality and the association. So after lead was taken out of gasoline, the blood lead concentration in human beings went down in the United States. From 14 to 2.5. By the way, no amount of toxic heavy metals is normal. So what's been still shown is that currently and to date, 38%, so almost 40% of adults have a blood lead level greater than 2, and that causes a 151 to 248% increase in death from stroke, 88 to 189% increase in death from heart attacks, and a 25% overall death rate. They're saying now that the heart attacks that are occurring in 40-year-olds are due to heavy metal burden. So, as I told you, particular for cardiovascular diseases, the lead has been associated with the high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks, and mortality. So it's stored in the bone, and what a half-life is, it means that in order to eliminate half of the lead in your body, it would take 30 years. Cadmium is associated with coronary disease, cerebrovascular disease, and peripheral artery disease, and its storage is in the kidneys, livers, and the lungs. That half-life is also 30 years. So how do these heavy metals affect the body? So they increase this thing called oxidative stress, which is disrupting the cellular function. They promote inflammation, which, what I said earlier, inflammation is the mechanism by which we age. Interfere with calcium signaling. Calcium signaling has been associated to be one of the prime ways that Alzheimer's develops. They affect the vascular endothelial lining, that's the very thin lining in the blood vessels. They increase blood pressure, cause kidney problems, and epigenetic changes means that they altered the DNA towards aging. So chelation therapy has been actually studied, and the trial to assess chelation therapy, which is a way to remove these heavy metals from the body, was done by Dr. Lamas, professor of medicine at Columbia University Medical Center, and he was also the chief of cardiology. So this study was funded by the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine and by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. The conclusion of this trial was that over a period of time, the participants received 40 EDTA chelation treatments, and what that showed was that it reduced the combined cardiovascular events significantly. In diabetics, the treatment outcome were absolutely stunning. You have to understand that these doctors were out to disprove chelation. They wanted to show that it doesn't work and just make it go away. And basically what occurred is that the high-dose vitamins alone improved cardiovascular events by 11%, but then in diabetics, they showed that there was a 41% reduction in any cardiovascular events and a 43% reduction in overall mortality. So this really put this integrative therapy out there as a proven treatment. If it would have been a pharmaceutical drug sponsored, it would have been actually standard of care at this point. So this is kind of what this looks like. This is the doctor getting IV nutrient therapy and the staff.
That's so cute.
So the integrative practitioner workup is a little bit more expansive because we need to know more about what your cells are doing. So it's not just your regular kidney, liver function, your hormone panel. Thyroid is looked at much more in depth. There are many markers for example, cholesterol. You can check in the blood markers called MPO, myeloperoxidase. That can say if you have plaque, is it stable or unstable? So we're able to drill down a lot better. Oftentimes we'll definitely do, if indicated, testing for heavy metals. We can look at a person's DNA age. There are tests for that and actually show how affected they are. We can look at genetic disease propensities. Does someone have the ApoE gene that makes them likely to develop Alzheimer's? Do they have other genes? Food allergies, mold toxicity, things like Lyme disease. All of those things can be checked for, and then basically this information serves as a basis to address people individually. Nutritional medicine is absolutely a key part of it. We have to eat clean as we can, with nutritional foods, organic foods, limit complex carbohydrates, implement intermittent fasting, and avoid certain oils like canola oil, and supplement the vitamins. So I've discussed briefly the preventative screening technology, and I just want to mention this because it's really helped my practice to get answers early and be proactive before people develop disease. So we have a test which is a 3-minute test. It's called the Max Pulse. It screens for arterial health and stress, the R3M and the WAVI. This Max Pulse is basically a little pulse oximeter, and it looks at the wave function, and it actually can tell me how much arteriosclerosis is in the artery wall. It also gives information about stress resistance, mental stress, and physical stress. Why is that important? Because when people are stressed, it correlates with higher inflammation and faster aging. So that's definitely something that we're able to then be proactive about. The R3M autonomic function test is an amazing test that really drills down. So the autonomic nervous system is what controls in an unconscious way, meaning you're not aware that your heart is beating, but all of your internal organs. And we measure the electricity of the signals that are coming from the brain to all of these organs, and it can give us information on whether or not you have arteriosclerosis, whether or not you have insulin resistance, whether or not you have neuropathy beginning, whether or not there is problems with heart rhythm abnormalities, whether or not you have problems with stress, do you have adrenal fatigue, how is the autonomic nervous system doing? So it gives an enormous amount of information that we can proactively look at and reverse. And the test is doable in an office setting. We do it at our office, and it takes about 25 minutes to complete the whole thing. I told you I was a geriatrician. I was medical director at Panorama for a long time. I love older folks, and one of the most heartbreaking things to see was people with dementia and people who were aware of cognitive decline. This machine, the Wavi brain test, when I found that, I was so excited. It is a brain EEG that you can do in the office, and it gives me the following information. It gives me whether or not your physical reaction time has slowed down, whether or not you already have cognitive decline. If so, where is it in the brain? How's the voltage of the brain doing? And was there any concussion or traumatic brain injury before? Is depression or anxiety playing into this? Because you know, depression in the brain looks like dementia. And if you treat people with depression, their cognitive decline improves. This machine tells me which is it. And so this information in a 40-minute test is amazing. And then with peptides to be able to reverse cognitive decline, this is what is possible now, and I'm very excited about. Let me tell you about peptides really quick. Peptides are like a key in a lock. They're short-chain amino acid. Our body produces them. And there's more than 7,000 known, but right now the FDA has approved about 60 of them. What can they do? Okay, in regards to cognitive decline in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and stroke, we have peptides like dihexa. This was developed at the University of Washington. It is 10 million times more potent than brain-derived nerve growth factor. It reverses dementia symptoms. My patients tell me it's like turning on the lights upstairs. There are other peptides like C-Lang that block anxiety and stress as well as aggression in the brain, while at the same time being a nootropic, meaning it helps your brain cells grow. So if you have somebody with depression and anxiety, when we're starting this peptide, there can be a huge shift. And so it helps memory and learning. It doesn't have side effects. And you don't keep people on these peptides forever. You do short bursts of intervention with nutritional optimization, and people do amazing. We have things in terms of weight loss, peptides that help with insulin resistance. We can reverse age, absolutely. 30 years ago, the Russians found this peptide called epithalon. Epithalon lengthens your telomeres. In studies, they gave it to people in their 90s for 5 days. They took tests, and after 4 weeks of taking this epithalon, their functional age was reversed by 4 years. Their heart was pumping better, it lowered their blood pressure, decreased their blood sugar, and this was a 5-day treatment course. So what they did was every 6 months they gave these people another 5 days of this epithalon, and they followed them for 12 years. The group that got epithalon had a decreased mortality rate of 50% after 12 years. We have amazing peptides to improve immune dysfunction, to help gut health, to treat cancer. For nerve regeneration, we have CMAX for wet glaucoma, macular degeneration. It's very effective to help with improving vision. And there's other peptides that are specifically related to longevity. MOTC is a particular protein that in a Japanese population has been associated with extreme longevity but healthy. They make it to 125 years and they don't have disease. And we now have this peptide to be able to inject and give to people. Osteoarthritis can be reversed with other peptides like AOD 9604. This literally reverses your own cells to be able to grow new cartilage. So the conclusion is that integrative medicine approach can provide many natural solutions to living longer and healthier. I want to thank you for listening. This was a lot of information. I'm super excited about the future of medicine. There is new things out there, and I hope you enjoyed this learning today.